Okay, so the goal of that video is to explain to you how to use the BD-based machines and how to use the machine, run your sample, use it in a proper way without blocking it, and clean it afterwards and leave it in perfect condition for the next person to use it. So when you arrive in the morning, usually you'll be the first person to use, but during the day, supposedly the machine should be always turned on and the computer should also be turned on. When you arrive, you would see that there is three main parts of the machine. You would have the main machine with the optics in there, you would have the computer, and you would have the fluidic cards. So the machine, as you arrive, should always be on low speed and standby mode, okay? Meaning the machine is not running anything, and it should not be acquiring anything either. What you need to check at first would be the fluidic cards. So when the machine is on, the fluidic card should always be on because it's connected to one another. Although sometimes people can turn it off. So it's very important to take a peek at this and make sure it's not off. So now we're going to check the fluidic cards to make sure it's in proper function. So the fluidic card, as you can see here, is under the machine. As I mentioned, it has to be turned on. It's light green. It is on. The next thing you need to look at is a different indication to know what is the status of each of the different containers. So you have the waste here. The waste indicator tells you when it's going to be full. The fax flow indicator tells you when, it's going to be either empty or almost empty. And you have other indications that can be useful for the rest of the user machine, but not on that specific purpose. The fax flow is going to be on the left side. This is going to be PVS. You can weight it and see how full it is to know whether or not you need to change it at the time. It's 20 liters of fax flow, so it's going to be very heavy at first, and you can easily see when you feel like you're going to have to change it. The waste should be relatively empty as this is full, right? Because one goes into the other. Check that this is empty or not, and if it is relatively full, you need to change it. What you need to do is simply unscrew this, remove the probe. As you can hear the sound of the alarm, it's okay for you to turn it off. What you do is you can remove this and you can take a new container that is in a hallway here. It's heavy, so if you need someone to help you carry it, you can ask any of us. We'll do it for you. You just break this, you can add it back in, and then you can put it back. So it's sometimes a bit tricky to put it back in. Okay. Since we've done this, we might as well replace it with the waste at the same time. Same thing, you can unscrew it, lift it to the side. So for this, what I usually would do, there's always going to be like something here for you to close the box so you don't split some bleach on you. You can take it. This can be put into the sink as it's been inactivated by the bleach. So you would just bring it down, empty it. When this is done, if the fax flow is not fully empty, what you can do is close it and leave it on the side and let us know, because we can constantly then and save some fax flow in the process. When it's done, what you need to do is refill with bleach. So there's always going to be bleach present on each of the sinks in each of the rooms. This is very easy to use. So what you need to do is for each of the Fortesas and BDLSR2 machines, you just need to put 100 ml in it. So we will unscrew that part, I guess. You just push so that it fill up to 50 ml, and you just put it back into the container. Do it twice. And when this is done, you can put it back into its position. So now this is done, you can turn it on again. And a very important step is for you to let the machine know that you changed the fluidics. So, okay, because the machine, although it has a sensor that will evaluate like the amount of sheath and waste that is present, you have to be careful to let it know that you replaced and refreshed everything. And to do so, you just have to click on the restart button here and push it. And then the machine knows that it's been replaced and it knows that now it's full. Because the way it works is that it's not going to be the machine asking for the fax flow to be refilled into the machine is going to be this that regularly would bring some flux sheet flow into that container. And this container would go into the machine. The problem being is that if you don't restart, what's going to happen is the machine is never going to expect flux flow to come up, and eventually that second buffer container will be emptied. And if it's emptied, the entire amount of air would go into the machine, and then the machine could not be run, and we need to actually kick the air out of the machine. It might just take some time, and it will just annoy a lot of people after you. So be very careful with that. As long as you do restart there, it's going to be fine. The machine is going to work properly. Okay. So once it's done and you're sure that you have fluids that is enough, what you can do is to check if the machine is not clogged, at least onto the seat level. So what we're going to do is just check what the seat looks like. So the seat is where you're going to put your sample. It's where you're going to put your tube to start acquiring your samples. So the way it works is that you will have a system that will, we have an arm here that prevents the tube from being projected down if the pressure is not working properly. And so the SIP, basically, you can see here there's like a small black seal that is important to seal the tube when you put it in and to able to pressurize the tube and bring your sample to the machine. So what you do first is you look what it looks like. You put the machine on run. You put the arm on the side. If the machine is properly set up and if the seal is still working, then it should not kick back due to the pressure. So that's one thing to check, and this is okay in that way. Now, the second thing to check is to remove the tube, let it on run, and if it's dripping, it means the machine is not clogged, because then the fluids can go through. So that's the second thing to check, and now you know it's working properly, at least for that aspect. Put it back on standby. And now you're good to go to actually use the machine. So, as I was mentioning, all this indication works for all the BD machines, because they all have a fluid start, and it's all working similarly. The only difference being that some of the machines have more or less pesos, and the configuration might just be different from one time to another. So in order for you to know that, check the configuration here. This is also present on the website, so you can always know which machine is more appropriate for you to use. But as long as you've been trained for one of those machines, you can use any machine that uses Diva. It will work in a similar fashion. So now that you check physics, you check that the machine is unplugged, you can go into the computer. So if you go on the computer, it should be quite often logged in, but if it's not logged in, what you need to log in is the operator profile here. So you will click on the operator, and the password is going to be BDIS in capital letter. You click, you log in, and most of the time the software will be on and already connected. So the software to use is going to be Diva, right here. And now we just turn on Diva software and you get into a login session. So this is login session that you will get after you've done being trained. And this is something that I will explain to you why we do that when we actually do the real training, I guess the live training that we are going to do now. Now I'm going to explain to you how you can run your sample on the machine. So most of the machine work the same way, as I mentioned previously. The first thing for you to do is to put the machine in the running mode, so the fluids are going on. The next thing to do is to put it on the side, remove the tube, and let the tube sit dripping so that it cleans the outside sleeve and prevents cross-contamination. This is where you're sure that fluids is going properly. And the next thing to do is to make sure that your samples are going to be filtered. It doesn't matter where the sample comes from, mouse or human, if it's going to be a tumor or it's going to be a fresh PBMCs, we have to filter it, because otherwise there will be a lot of accumulation of debris in the machine that might eventually to block it and annoy all the people when they're going to bring the machine. So what you need to do for that is to filter with two different methods. So the first one would be to use those tubes. So those tubes are very nice, the blue cap tube, but they also are very expensive. It's very easy to use. You would just take the tube, you just lift the cap slightly, otherwise it will not, it will have the pressure in there and you will not be able to filter it properly. And then you simply take a bit of the sample, you put a tip just on there and you push through, and that's it. It's very easy. The only option is for you to use filter sheet paper. So this is something that we have the reference of, and we can provide it for you if you want to buy some. And we also have some there present at the facility in case you need to have the one for the first experiment, and then you can buy your own afterwards, right? So those three sheet paper are also very easy to use. You will simply take your tube, you will take a bit of the sample, you put it on top of your tube, you just push a bit through, down, and it filters through, and that's it. You can trash it in there, okay? It's very easy to do, it's quick, and as you are running one sample, you can filter the next one, so it doesn't slow you down either. So that's the important part about the filter. So we train you how to use the machine and how to use the Factiva. Now the last step of that training is to be able to clean the machine properly. We need to clean the machine to leave it in proper condition for the next user. In order to do that, we ask you to create a new experiment under your profile, in which you create 4 different tubes. Those tubes will be used to record the different cleaning steps that have to be done in a certain order for you to properly clean the machine. And the reagents you're going to have to use will all be next to the machine. And they will be present and labeled in the order that you need to use them. So the first cleaning step would be done with Agnosim, which is a strong detergent. Then the Fax rinse, which would be like a milder one. Then Fax clean, which is basically bleach. Bleach is going to help you sterilizing everything. And then the water will be the last one to do, so that you can remove everything from the machine and with detergent and leave it proper for the next user. It's important for the Fax clean steps for you to know what you're running and how dirty your sample can be. If it's going to be tumor sample, if it's going to be very messy sample, this step is not going to be 5 minutes, but it can be longer. It can be up to 10 minutes to make sure that you remove as much debris as possible. Otherwise, like the time that has to be run for each of the cleaning regions is put onto the container itself. So 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5, and 2 here. All has to be run at high speed. And all has to be recorded for the time that has to be required to make sure that we can track down how it looks like when you're done running the sample.